Hi guys, this is Diego from Bogota, Colombia. Thank you for all the art that you give us. How I Met Your Mother has made so many things in my life. I was introduced to the show by who will be my Victoria, the first love of my life, the one that got away. It was in season 5 and I was 22, but my parents went bankrupt and they couldn't pay for my studies anymore. So I watched the whole 5 seasons with my sisters who are 4 and 5 years younger than I am. But we all agreed that during that tough time, basically going through hunger and spending our days together watching the show, the age difference narrowed down and we really became more than siblings. We became friends. And now this new episode of rewatching it with you all, 3 years ago, I decided to leave the boring suits and engineering life to become an artist. I've been acting for 2 years almost. Listening to this podcast feels like another and very important academic resource. Your insight, your tales, your opinions feels like a masterclass in being an artist. I admire you, love you, and respect you so much, and I love filming and art in an immense way that I promise you I will be a passionate and dedicated actor and artist every single day of my life. Thank you again. You have no idea how much you have inspired my life and the artist that I am.
I'm alone. What a pity I won't be soon in New York City. When I see you, please permit me to tell you everything in New York City.
Wow, Diego, thank you so much for that. What an incredible letter to start this episode.
Maybe one of these days, one of these episodes, I won't almost burst into tears. Alex springs these beautiful things on us right as this is all in real time.
We hear these for the first time as we do the episode. So that was really incredible. Thank you so much. We're so grateful that the show met you at the right moment. And you know, sometimes I really think the best compliment you can give another artist or storyteller is you made me want to make art. You make me want to do the thing, you know? So that was really incredible. Yeah. Welcome to How We Made Your Mother. I'm Josh Radner. I'm here with my friend Craig Thomas. Hello, Craig.
Hey, Josh.
Hey. We are talking about the TV show we made together from 2005 to 2014 called How I Met Your Mother. I played Ted Mosby on that show. Craig co-created the show with Carter Bays. And today, first season, much like when we filmed it, first season is chugging along. We are on episode 17 called Life Among the Gorillas.
17 out of 22. We are barreling to the finish line. We are well more than halfway. And it's the beginning of the end of season 1 arc is heating up here, which is fun to get into.
I can't believe we're on episode 17 already. I mean, this podcast itself, time is so strange because this is something I heard about parents, that the days are slow and the years fly by. Is that what you found to be?
Yeah, that is very accurate. Very accurate. My son is 18, just turned 18, and he was born between year 2 and 3 of him. And it is all of a piece.
Okay, so episode 17, Life Among the Gorillas. This was written by, I believe, Craig Thomas and Carter Bays. Is that correct?
It was. We wrote a bunch of these in season 1, and this is one of them. As the season started to barrel towards the finish line, we definitely jumped in and wrote a few more just to sort of steer this episode ends with a real cliffhanger that kind of spins you into some real drama that's about to heat up the entire ending of season 1. But we will get there. I won't start at the end, although we could.
We'll talk about this, but I thought it was so elegant how the B story in the very last moment is the A story of the next episode, but it's teed up so smartly. So we'll get to all that. But Alek, when did this episode air? Episode 17.
This aired on March 20th, 2006.
A simpler time.
Ooh.
So Craig, talk us through the pitch. What happens in this episode?
Yeah, I liked that this episode focused the A story on a Marshall dilemma, like you said, and then at the end of the episode, the B story really hijacks, steals the spotlight to spin you into the next one, which is Nothing Good Happens After 2 a.m. This is Marshall wrestling with his principles versus financial realities, right? He's in law school. He's deeply in debt. We've seen him and Lily earlier in the season both rack up thousands of dollars of money, debt on a suit and a wedding dress. The wedding dress, sadly, by destroying it. And he feels the pressure to go make some money by working sort of part-time in Barney's very gigantic and dubious company full of packed with alpha males, all suited up like Barney. And Marshall decides to go make a go of it there and see if he can make some money. And he decides to try to fit in and starts to show signs that perhaps he's changing into one of those guys. And Lily starts to notice, and it's a problem. Meanwhile, Ted is in that war of long distance of he's being sent much nicer care packages by Victoria, who's in Germany, and he feels like he has to somehow make that up. He's realizing that long distance really sucks, which of course future Ted has now told us at least twice by this point, the beginning of this episode being the second time.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me as you describe the Marshall story, I feel like your 20s, there's still like your personality is somewhat still fluid. Like you're still like trying on costumes a little bit. Like, oh, maybe I'll, and you're also still kind of porous and unformed enough. Not all people in their 20s, but there isn't a thing like your friends at a certain point. It's not your family of origin or your parents that are most affecting your personality. It's your peer groups, right? And when you fall into a certain kind of peer group, like I remember when I got to college, I wasn't I was a voracious reader as a kid. In high school, I wasn't as much. But I got into college and I fell in with these really smart, funny group of people who were just like big readers. And I suddenly I conformed by becoming a big reader. So I'd be like, so I could have something to
this
talk
is the
about
best
with them at the
possible
meals.
peer pressure, though.
No, it is. It's the best possible peer pressure. Like become a good, so Marshall is like, he's in a culture that he does not take to initially. And he actually is somewhat repelled by it. But he also, for his own social survival, starts to adapt. I mean, it's actually really smart to frame it in kind of animalistic evolutionary terms.
The anthropology of it all. And it hits right in that sweet spot of everything he thought he was going to be in a perfect world. And now he's working for this company that makes the fuzzy stuff on tennis balls and a whole bunch of really evil shit too. I really enjoyed that the speed of that montage of boom, boom, boom. You just see all of these horrible things that are go unnamed, and the company wants the public to focus on the tennis balls. It feels very relevant at the moment. It was from 2006, but it feels like it could be today, right? We're very much in that world of talking about climate change and how much or little of our effort should be thrown at that. And Marshall, here he is in 2006, right in there. And I enjoyed that.
There's a very dark climate change joke in there. Like, we tried.
Yeah, well, they tried.
They tried.
I wish that joke felt like it was not relevant still, but here we are.
Yeah. I also like how the corporation is this Goliath National Bank or not? This is different. That's different?
Well, it's called Altrucell here. And I think later I forget how we get to Goliath National Bank. If that's a subsidiary of Altrucell. I was really working on this in my brain. I didn't let myself look it up because I was really trying to challenge myself to remember how we navigated that. And I'm just going to be honest, I forget when and where and how we imply GNB is part of that, or Barney that moves jobs.
Two things I want to highlight about this plot with Marshall is there's a kind of how alpha am I supposed to be? How ruthless am I supposed to be? How, like, where do my values go vis-a-vis my ambition and vice versa? You know? And I think that, that's still something I actually struggle with. Like, how get out of my way world, I'm going to do what I need to do versus, no, I'm a part of a team. I'm a part of community. My values dictate that I put my ego aside for the larger good. Like, there's all sorts of really big questions that are couched in this 22 minutes of comedy.
And I wrote you this little ditty to sing to you in New York City.
We'll be right back. And now, back to the show.
Yeah, I really like the flashback to Marshall's childhood, the kind of origin story of like when he decided to be a superhero. He wanted to be an environmental superhero. He wanted to say, I'm going to save those gorillas. I'm going to save their habitat. And it's kind of this philosophical debate of, is it possible the older you get into adulthood, and I agree with you completely that your late 20s you're maybe an adult, like it depends on the person, but I feel like I became an adult in my 30s.
Yeah. I mean,
Honestly,
isn't it like the
yeah,
prefrontal cortex only settles at 25? Like you're still
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, here he is, Marshall. He's 27 or something, and he's headed into now. His life's going to get expensive all of a sudden, right? They're in debt from the suit and the wedding dress. They have a wedding coming up, and the future and kids, and all of a sudden, when faced with all of that, he's now. It's the first time he's really being tested about: do you mean this thing that you said you wanted to do when you were in grade school, when you saw this woman gave this very sobering assessment that the gorillas would all be dead?
Yeah.
It was not the most inspiring pep talk he got, but it really landed for him, and he's such an empath and a sweetheart and a compassionate guy. That is his mission, and now this is the first real test. This is the first real we're gonna kick the tires. We're gonna come at this idea a little bit. The real life is gonna come for you. Can you hold on to this thing, this image of who you thought you'd be as a grown up?
Yeah.
And I really like that debate. I really like that it's an episode that's primarily about that, right? It's not primarily about like dating and love and relationship stuff. It's who are you? What can you hold on to that best version of yourself you thought you were going to be?
It's also, though, it does brush up against dating and relationship and marriage, because he says, well, how am I going to provide for this family? How am I going to, my wife is a kindergarten teacher. Like, what kind of salaries, together, what kind of life will that buy us in New York City, no less? So it does brush up against the economic question. This is actually the other thing I wanted to bring up. I read a really great article in The Atlantic by Sophie Gilbert this week about essentially like economics on TV. And she asked, like, when did TV become so filthy rich? Like, when did TV, right now, TV is really in a moment where money's not an issue right now on TV. Everyone has an enormous amount of money to burn, vacations to go to where people get murdered, and, beach houses. And it's just like money is no object on TV right now. And she bemoans this, and I think rightly, that if you want TV to be a it's a tricky thing, because you don't want TV to be a downer. TV is still an escape, right? Like you still want to go somewhere where you can get away from stuff, but you also don't want to feel like you're in like a gilded palace that you don't relate to. And I've always something I admired about this show is economics is at play.
And Barney is planting these seeds of doubt about like what a man is, right? It's a man's job to provide everything for the woman. It's very kind of old school, right? Lily, yeah, sure. Lily's a kindergarten teacher, but deep down she wants the package, according to Barney.
Yeah.
Which led to some great wordplay, dick jokes that I really enjoy later. But there really is legitimate content into what he's saying, which is he's saying she may say one thing, but deep down, and Barney's playing to that kind of like primal sort of caveman, like very deep primordial thing that men feel, I think, of I've got to be this provider. And he really fucks with Marshall's head, for lack of a better term, and plants a seed of doubt that yes, Lily will, maybe she's not now, but she will be the woman who will want all of those things. Even as Lily is saying to Marshall, I don't need those things. I want you to be yourself, and you're sliding into becoming someone else, and I don't like it. But it's so powerful. I think that pull of what you think you're supposed to be or do as a man, and I think we are really witnessing, not to get too political, so the sociological at the moment, but I think we're really witnessing in our culture right now, 2025 as opposed to 2006, although it's kind of the same debate. What is a man, right? What is a man's role? How does a man define himself? And I think we are seeing some very wrong answers to that question, if I may be so bold. And we see Marshall get seduced by some of those, maybe the sketchier version of what a man thinks he's supposed to be.
It almost feels like you guys were a little ahead of what's going on now. Like Blauman and Bilson, is that their names? Blauman and Bilson? Brian and Taryn, yeah. What perfect names, by the way. Blauman and Bilson.
Those names came from like pretend names we used to make up with Carl McLaren and Jamie Adamek. We would just make up these sort of like middle manager kind of guys, like, and those were like the names of the guys. They were like characters we would sometimes just pretend to do.
Yeah.
And so we stole them as a tribute to those bits to put in these sort of like these striving middle management kind of guys. And by the way, the first significant other of a Himium Man cast member has made an appearance.
Has landed.
Is Taryn Killam. Kobe's
husband
then
of Kobe
boyfriend,
Smulders,
then fiance, then husband, and now father of her children. And that begins a quick succession in this next batch of episodes of several other significant others. But this was the first one. This opened the floodgates, and then we got a couple.
We're making
more
up for me not having been married on the show by having Jordana on every episode of this show.
Yes, and we finally got. That's right. And now this is your significant other. This is my show. So we've righted the boat.
So, but also, I mean, there's a kind of like the culture in that company among those guys. Like, not to name any names, but it does feel like we could probably guess what podcasts they're listening to today. You know, like it feels like they were like in the manosphere before there was such a thing, or they were like waiting for their cultural moment to come along.
Yeah. Those guys have a podcast at this point.
They have a podcast.
Very problematic
they have a very mid podcast.
It's the Blauman Bilson hour, and it is really fucking crazy.
But also, like, think of it, just the culture clash of like Marshall Erickson from like pretty liberal Minnesota, Wesleyan graduate entering into this thing. Like, he must have felt, I mean, you see, he feels really underwater and ill-equipped, but he also makes this pivot. But I just think there's something so refreshing about seeing people, like, think in your life, like, everyone's economic situation is affecting their choices. It's affecting whether they're going to meet their friend for dinner, if they have enough money. It's affecting where they can live. It's affecting what cities what jobs they're going to take. Like, economics, especially in America, is such a driver of so much. And I feel like it's a dereliction of duty when TV shirks looking directly at that.
Yeah, I agree. I really like seeing them under legitimate financial pressure, and it's kind of changing who Marshall is and the decisions he's making, because we've all been there in some way, right? Like, I mean, I remember like looking at life through that lens, like in season 1 of How I Met Your Mother, like we were all on the climb, right, Josh? We were all like, we were ambitious and hungry, and we wanted this thing to work, and this was our ticket, right?
Yeah.
And we're chasing this thing, and you're maybe like deprioritizing other parts of your life and brain and health and whatever else is going on to like this kind of workaholic focus. You know, I remember, thinking, I'm married, I've been married for a few years, we're probably gonna have a kid soon. And like all of these issues were in my brain too. And, and it's a very powerful thing to, I think for men, I don't want to, I'm a man, so I'll only talk about it from that perspective, but what Marshall gets seduced by there is very real. Right. Mm-hmm. And you're coming up on 30, you're in your late 20s and your 30s. All of a sudden you're looking ahead and you're thinking about children and the future. And I bought Marshall's kind of slide into the seduction. Obviously it's funny and it's silly, and we maybe tried to make it amusing, but I think it's pretty real, right? That even a guy with all of those kind of values, who is a cuddly, sweet, empathetic bear of a guy, there is something seductive when someone whispers in your ear and goes like, deep down your wife wants you to be rich. Your wife wants everything.
Right. But not only that, there's a gravitational pull to a culture. I know a woman who moved down to Florida kind of mid-pandemic with her husband and her kids, and she was very kind of New York progressive. Her politics were just like line drive kind of New York City politics. And she moved down to Florida, and she was surrounded by different political beliefs. And she said, like, I still consider myself on the left end of the spectrum, but it changed a lot of my thinking, just being saturated in a different culture.
Yeah.
So Marshall steps into this culture, and it rattles him because he also doesn't want to get made fun of at lunch. He doesn't want to eat alone. He doesn't want to feel like he's the lame kid, right? And it's funny how adolescent fear of being left out never quite leaves us, right? Like it's always a driver. And that's also primal, like shame of being, cast out of the tribe, right?
I remember being in my 20s writing for Late Show with David Letterman, growing up all of my teen years, hating how much my father smoked cigarettes. We would go on long car trips and he'd be smoking with the air conditioner with like me and like a friend of mine and my mother driving on like
just
the long car trip
poisoning
to
you
go away for the weekend. And like the whole car was smoking the cigarette. Like the car itself was smoking the cigarette.
Yeah.
And I was like, the one thing I know about myself, you know, life may come at me in all kinds of directions, but the one thing I know is I'm never going to smoke.
Except when you're drunk.
Except when I'm drunk. Yes. Well, that very much to the point. But I remember being at Letterman, and I don't want to name names. Carter Bays was a big smoker, and a couple of the other writers at Letterman. And by the way, much to his credit, Carter quit smoking years and years and years and years ago. In fact, it was led to material. There was a whole Himium episode about that. Last cigarette ever. And I, somewhere in my like early mid 20s, because of Carter and a couple of the other dudes at the other writers at Letterman smoked, I started sort of smoking, like not even enjoying it. I didn't look cool doing it. I'm the one person that's while smoking looks really uncool and kind of sickly. Like I just sort of turn a bad color. It does not look like James Dean at all. And I was thinking, I'm like, why am I doing this? I hate this. I actually hate this. And our office became the smoking office because I had like windows that opened. It was like over the Ed Sullivan Theater and, you know, where Colbert is now. And people would come in there to smoke. So the fucking whole office became like an ashtray. And it was so disgusting. And eventually I had like a moment where I was like, I was never going to do this. And I think I'm doing this to fit in with, I basically did like the high school thing, but in my 20s. I never did the high school thing in high school. I never had that peer pressure in my 20s. I was like, I would smoke. And it wasn't a huge amount, but it was somewhat. And I remember just looking at myself in the mirror at some point going like, this is who you're never going to be. And you're doing it to fit in with these dudes.
Well, it's so easy to moralize. I remember having a conversation with my friend Jeremy Hirschfield in 8th grade. We were at this private school. We were both about to go into this public school. And he said, I might try alcohol. And I said, I remember I was so self-righteous. I was like, I don't need to have alcohol to have a good time, is what I said. Cut to like 2 months into freshman year, I'm shotgunning beers in C.H. Waterman's attic. You know, just like absolutely, I have no memory of saying that. I mean, culture and that peer pressure, like it's a huge driver. I also think there's something really funny about the corporate critique that you guys laced into How I Met Your Mother with Goliath National Bank and whatever this company is that got acquired perhaps by Goliath National Bank, and that they were very generically, besides the yellow fuzzy stuff on tennis balls, just involved. They had their hands in all evil, all global evil. They had their fingerprints on every aspect. It's weapons. It's like everything. Yeah. And but it's funny how you did that within like a real corporate structure. Like we were not an indie, like outside. This is not like a John Waters film. Like this is like 20th Century Fox, which at the time was owned by Rupert Murdoch, it must be said. And you guys were doing this critique, which I thought was like pretty cool and subversive to be doing that from within. Yeah,
you would throw to commercial from How I Met Your Mother and see ads for companies like Altracell, essentially, like, right? Like those were our sponsors. So there was like, this was us hating ourselves a little bit, maybe for knowing we were some part of that corporate engine. I remember going to work so many days and seeing that the giant Simpsons, you know, they're like when you drive into the Fox lot, there's on one of the side of one of the sound stages, there's a huge painting of the Simpsons, like a 50-foot tall, you know, and Star Wars, and just going like, okay, remember that stuff. Because I know the larger parent company here has some real problems happening. And I much prefer to think of ourselves as we are creative types working for this one completely separate faction, like The Simpsons, which also is an unbelievable social satirical critique, right? And I would have to really meditate some days on that type of, I'm thinking about it that way as opposed to some other way. But we had to sneak in that commentary ourselves.
Don't you think though that we are from, like, we're kind of like late Gen X, you and I?
Yep.
So we're from a generation that was like reality bites. Like she chooses Ethan Hawke over Ben Stiller. Like it's about not selling out.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Sorry about that. What's Nate Bargatze's thing
Reality
about
bites.
6 cents? Like, don't, we're going to rent it tonight. Why would you ruin it? but I think that I know I still have that kind of like, don't sell out thing in me. That's just generational. But at the same time, I don't think Gen Z, they do not have that. Like, they will accept ads on their TikTok if they are killing it. Like, I just think that the idea of being a sellout is not a thing anymore. That's why a friend of mine, Isaac Butler, a really smart writer, we went and saw Merrily We Roll Along with Daniel Radcliffe when it was at New York Theater Workshop. Yeah. And it's an amazing, if incredibly flawed musical. And he said, I think the reason this musical doesn't work, like at its base level, is it took place in the 70s or early 80s, and it all hinges on this notion of selling out. And that's just, it's not a thing anymore. Like, no one gets mad at you for taking money from a big studio or a corporation to finance your dream project. Like, I just think we're in a different zone. But I think you guys, we come from a kind of generation where there was a little bit of like, or should we be doing this?
That's really interesting to think about. I wonder how this episode plays in that context in 2025. I mean, I think it plays just because it's less about it's in part about selling out, but it's also like selling out to this incredibly evil company that is like clearly poisoning the environment.
The background noise is the company, but the more pressing thing is these guys and the way they talk and the way they talk about women and the way they just their whole ethos of how they interact and how they move through that space. And Marshall's like, I have to learn a new language. Like, he has to code switch essentially. Like, he's one way with Lily and, you know, Ted and Robin. And then he flips into this different way of being and speaking when he's with those guys.
Yeah, and I really like that Lily, as the kindergarten teacher, is like, no, that's just peer pressure. This is not an anthropological study. It's called peer pressure. I see it with my 5-year-olds.
We have an assembly. Like, doesn't she say we have an assembly about it?
We have an assembly every year about it. It's so true. It never changes. It never changes. Here you still feel it, right? We're like 50 years old. There's still moments where you're like, well, how am I bending? What am I doing to fit into this situation? Am I being myself? Am I finally at the age where I'm just myself, for crying out loud, or am I still doing that in some way? And I think the honest answer is we're all still doing that in some way.
Remember how popular that book was? Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. Do you guys remember that book? Like, I think Lily would probably. Yeah,
it all applies.
So a couple of things I just wanted to shout out. I thought young Marshall was very well cast. That seemed like a little a young really, Jason Segel.
Really earnest and sweet and Segelian.
Yeah, I think that's right. When Ted calls out off stage, "I love you too, Marshmallow," that line sounded so clearly looped, didn't it?
It did, and I had the same thought, Josh, and I was like, I wonder why that got looped. I wonder if that was just like, did we add that joke? I
don't know if it was, but it sounded so looped. I thought it was really funny.
Explain to some folks. Explain what I agree completely. But yes.
So for Tracy who's Sean Hayes' cousin on Smartless, we'll say that looping is when you have to go back in and add audio in post because maybe the audio got recorded wrong, or you want to change the line or something.
Like there's an offstage line you wanted to add in. Yeah.
Josh, it's so funny you said that. Alek, you were nodding too.
Oh, 100%.
I turned to my wife. I said, like, that was something happened to that line. I don't remember what the backstory is. Maybe the audio was corrupted and we just had to add that line again, but it did. It sounded really weird.
I feel like it was a joke that was, I think we filmed it, and I think something must have happened with the audio, and I had to
because it's timed right. It fits in. Like, it feels like it's shot that way. Then I was like, why does Josh's voice sound like he's in a spaceship somewhere else other than that room?
Every once in a while I'll be watching a movie and I'll be like, that line was looped. Like you can but often they're pretty good about massaging it. I just wondered why that one wasn't. Where did Steak Sauce A1 come from? Like, where did that?
I don't remember. I was feeling like it was from maybe Matt Kuhn, one of our writers, and maybe in college somebody really did say that, and that was a thing. I'll have to ask Matt. If not, I feel like it was from somebody's like friend group or somebody they had studied in college. Yeah, anthropologically studied some group of people.
It's a perfect kind of like, what are they saying? Like, do I have steak sauce on my tie? Like
on my tie. Poor Marshall. It's so sweet.
And this old man, he must admit he fell in love with you in New York City.
And now, commercials. End of commercials. Back to show.
I loved when he said, "We're still engaged, even if she's out of town." Like,
That's so really funny because that sets up a future thing later where there is, like, I think Barney gets way later in the series, Barney gets really angry that Marshall can't even really fantasize about other, like, actual women. And Marshall has to go through this whole long thing, imagining Lily's death, imagining the funeral. Imagining months passing, years passing, and then at the end, the fantasy part is he meets a woman and, like, says, hi. And that's the fantasy. Just that he's even open to talking to another one. Like, I'm getting it wrong. It's like way later in the series, but this felt like it set that up of, like, he just can't even do the hypothetical, really.
Yeah. I mean, it's so smart how, and we'll talk about this in a moment, but setting up, you got Angelina Jolie and Scarlett Johansson. What do you do? Go. Like that whole bit, which is feels like a negligible throwaway thing, becomes this really, like, existentially fraught question at the way end.
We had that right away. I remember that was sort of a big part of what the structure became. We knew we wanted to end that. That whole "what do you do go" bit thing used to come from us joking around, again, with our assistant Carl McLaren, doing, like, sort of a pretend bro-y, fratty bit. That was the whole, like, "what do you do go?" And it was always at night. It was always raining. And we would have this whole elaborate bit that we essentially just transferred into the show and put on these guys that were the kind of guys we were sort of imagining. Right. And it fit in so well. And then we realized it can become dramatic at the end. Yes, this thing that you think is a complete throwaway and a completely stupid joke that just happens a couple times, little runner, at the end becomes the central question of what is going to be the next episode that is going to lead to some really seismic stuff in Ted's life. And I really like that sneaks up on you at the end.
I just also realized that the word "go" has a double meaning at the way end, because throughout the whole thing is like, what do you do go, meaning answer, like answer. But this one is, what do you do? You go to her.
Yeah,
you go over to her apartment,
which he does.
Spoiler
alert.
Yeah.
We'll get to that too.
I loved when Lily said, "Screw those guys, we're adorable." Like, so much about like the mythologizing, like Lily and Marshall have a mythology about themselves. Like, we're Lily and Marshall, like we're the parrot, is it ne plus ultra? Is that the word? Like, we're like the beau ideal of a couple, and screw these guys for not seeing that. Was this the debut of Siegel doing the robot, or had he already done it?
He'd done some robot. There was some robot in his big dance number in Okay, Awesome, and I think a couple other times. He was calling that back as, like, this is one of my moves. And we had established that. Right. By the way, the other thing I like about it's 2 a.m., knock on the front door, but knock on the back door. The 2 a.m. sort of, like, fit in great. Because I don't remember if that was part of our initial bit, but I think we made it 2 a.m. because we knew the next episode was going to be this great study in the cutoff of 2 a.m.
What I love Barney's please. Like, just, it's so funny.
Yes. Again, which set up a series-long runner about not knowing what his job is. And then eventually, I won't blow the joke, but the please of it all, please means something when we finally find out there's an acronym for please down the line.
That's right. That's right.
Do you remember this?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I won't say what it is because we'll just get there, 3 years from now on the podcast. So remember this. Hold on to this.
Yeah. How well do you think the Golden Girls joke aged?
Well, I mean, I guess you could argue it a bunch of ways. It's a bit of a troubling joke. I think it aged well because the Golden Girls have deservedly
they're perennial.
So,
Yeah.
Stayed so perennial because it's just a great show. And Betty White, it's like it's all still present in pop culture. I was happy with it. That aged better than some other pop culture. It aged better than the Quantum Leap joke 2 episodes earlier, for example.
I love, like, smoking only when I'm drunk. Good boy. Like, that's so
Good
funny.
Boy.
Tremors of psychitude rock my body like a seizure. That's what I wrote down. This is another thing of, like, first time network debut of that sentence.
Yeah. Like, another show's not doing that one.
Quantum Leap, they didn't say that. Golden Girls never said that.
Barney could turn a phrase, tremors of psychitude.
And what the declawed
band
cat and Marshall says, wow, that was really specific.
It's really specific. I love how Siegel played that. Yeah, and I think they really did hurt each other's hands when they did some of they did a bunch of those really hard high fives. I seem to remember them like really.
Yeah, we didn't have a combat choreographer for those high fives. Like they just like hit me.
A specific high five coordinator. You were very funny. I thought you played a very funny falling asleep on the phone.
Oh, I like that
with Victoria.
I like that.
You had a very good like little physical. There was something you did like
no, I know what it was.
Like,
I did like
itching, scratching. There was something that turned into you melting into sleep. That was good.
Jordana got distracted by our dog, and I made us rewind and watch me falling asleep because I thought it was good enough. I wanted her to see my acting. See this. Yeah.
No, I'm not kidding. I really thought about that was a really funny. You melted into sleep by like your face and your hand. Like there was
and it's like trying to stay on, like trying to not be asleep, like trying to not let the person know you're going.
Yeah. It is a great study of how shitty long distance relationships are. It is that idea of like you just run out of shit to say. And you kind of forget what the person looks like. And I actually really bought that because they don't even together a couple of months. Like you can be together with someone for like 5 years and be apart for a month or two and kind of go, fuck. Yeah. I can't totally. I'm not 100% conjuring that person's face at this moment. There's something off. It's tough, man. It's tough. We were not wrong about the long distance thing.
What does this mean? Ted's shirt on phone with Robin O. Ted's?
I don't know. Were you literally falling asleep on the couch next to Jordana? You were doing the Ted, the hand, and
I
just started writing nonsense down?
Yeah. Ted's shirt on phone with Robin O.
I like some of these notes. Like every third one, you're like, what in God's name did I write
that?
12 hours ago when I watched this?
I know. I did think Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap was the perfect song for Barney to sing. That's like his go-to. It's perfect.
So I forgot that was Barney's karaoke song until I was scouring new songs we should play for our How I Met Your Mother fundraiser concert that we do at Bowery Ballroom. There will be another one in early 2026. And I was like, what song should Will Forte sing? Neil couldn't come to that. He couldn't perform with us at that. He was traveling. And we knew we had Will Forte coming in. And we're like, what song can Will Forte just scream the living bejesus out of? And I was like, and we were looking around. It's like, it's that one. Because we only play at that fundraiser concert. We only play songs that are either like written for How Much Mother or were on the soundtrack or featured. And so that was thrilling to discover that. And Will Forte came out, sang it with Carter, and killed with that song. And Neil killed it too.
So let's just talk about the ending. I just thought it was so brilliant. I'd forgotten. One, the what do you do go comes back. But I was really struck by how Ted is clearly the B story. Ted and Robin and this Victoria thing is so clearly the B story.
Yep.
But at the very last moment, it just like tees it up as like, now we're going to follow this. Like this is now the A story for the next episode. And it's such a good cliffhanger. I think by episode 17 into 18, you've got some real emotional investment among the audience. Yeah. And I thought it was one of the better cliffhangers of season one.
Thanks. I love that moment. It gives me a chill every time, that ending. There's just when it cuts to black there, and there's that little beat even before the credits come in, which we kept there to sort of let it land. I love that. I love that it sort of sneaks up on you as this dramatic ending, and it really spins you into the dilemma of the next one. This is what we love doing. We loved writing it as one big continuous thing. We didn't want it to be a box of chocolates. We didn't want it to be standalone episode. You can watch anyone in any order. And, the network was nervous about that. We got kind of a talking to at the end of season one that we were doing too much of that kind of thing. This was before streaming. This was before Netflix. Netflix was a place that sent you DVDs in red pouches at this point. 2005-06, and people didn't consume the show this way. And we were like, but they do. They'll get it on the DVD and they'll watch a whole bunch in a row, or by the way, why not wait? Now you have to wait a week to see what Ted's going to do with that amazing dilemma that's just been presented to him. So let people sweat it out for a week and come back, as opposed to like, I forget what happened last week on that How I Met Your Mother show. I don't see the downside. I guess it excludes people jumping in the middle, but does it really? I would argue it doesn't.
I mean, it's always essentially an argument about how much do you trust your audience?
Yes. And we trusted our audience, and God damn it, it paid off. We're proven right by the smartest and best fans of any TV show in history.
Well, we are at a segment of the show that we like to call Questions and Observations from a clinical psychologist who's never seen How I Met Your Mother and also happens to be married to Josh.
I love in this episode how Lily is so encouraging of Marshall following his dreams, of not selling out, of not just being practical. And it reminded me of a story about John Gottman, who's a well-known couples therapist and researcher, who apparently, when he was trying to publish his first book, was rejected multiple times until one guy said, "You want me to publish your book? Tell me now, how do I fix my marriage with my wife?" And John Gottman apparently said, "Ask her what her dreams are." And it worked. He published him. And the story always stuck with me because I think it highlights how fundamental it is to find a partner who really encourages you to follow your dreams. And I just love how the solid him couple here is the one that is supportive of each other's dreams. So my question to you guys is, who was supportive of your dreams in childhood and also now?
That's a great story and a great question. What do you do? Go. Josh, you're first.
Well, I feel like as an actor and as a person who makes things and tells stories, like there were some formative people in my life along the way. I had and continue to have a friend named David Brown who choreographed the first musical I was in. And I think he might have been the first person who told me I could do this professionally. And then I was at Vassar at a training program one summer, New York Stage and Film, and two great actors, Jane Kasmerick. She played the mom on Malcolm in the Middle and a bunch of other stuff. She's such a good actor. And this other just incredible actor, Peter Frechette. I was friends with both of them. And they both pulled me aside and said, you can do this. You're going to be one of the people here who can do this. And there was a mentor I had in school, Ken Washington, who died a couple years ago. And at his memorial, I spoke. It was a bunch of Juilliard and NYU people who were really affected by him. We had a kind of makeshift memorial at NYU. And I got up and spoke and I said, there were times when I didn't believe that I could be an actor, but I believed that Ken believed I could be an actor. And I think sometimes when you don't believe in yourself, there's like, you almost have to have like an external hard drive in the form of a person who holds the faith, like is the faith keeper for you until you can hold it yourself. And so I had an enormous amount of those people over the years that even now, sometimes when I'm feeling down about this or that, there's people that I call because they're so gifted at pep talks. My friend John Morrow is like, he's just ready to give me the best pep talk. And I always feel altered after talking with him. And, my wife, who also happens to be a clinical psychologist who's never seen How I Met Your Mother.
I've heard of her.
Yeah.
I think we're in her segment right now.
Yeah.
I think we're literally in her thing.
I mean, in some ways, like we weren't together since drama school. Like we got together after I was firmly established as doing what I do, but there was no question, like she understood in some sort of cellular way what I do and why I need to do it. And her ability to kind of like see what I need to do and what I need to do daily creatively, like there's never been a negotiation around that. Like she really, the only negotiation would be, I think you need to do this more. Like, I think you need to lean into this more. So I feel really supported in that primary relationship. What about you, Craig?
Yeah. I like how you just laid out a timeline. I think that's the truth of it, right? It's like different people at different times. But the earliest ones matter so much, right? And I would say my mother and father, my father, who is a writer, creative director in advertising.
And smoker.
And big smoker. Very Mad Men era, like advertising smoker guy. But and around to the here and now, he's alive and probably smoking if he's listening to this, which I'm not sure he knows how to listen to a podcast. But he would just give me cool writers to read. That was his way of showing his belief in me. Like, read this. You should read. Here's John Cheever. Here's Raymond Carver. Here's J.D. Salinger. Like, and just like, he didn't give me pep talk after pep talk, but I knew he believed in me because he told me what to read. And my mother more explicitly would say, saw that I was a good writer. She saw my schoolwork. She saw that I could write and knew that I was thinking about doing it. And when at a very young age, when I would have a hard day and I'd come and I'd talk about something that was terrible at school or something that was bothering me, or, my parents divorcing and early in high school, she would say, well, it's all grist for your mill, meaning you're going to make something of this someday, kind of using this charmingly old timey way of saying that. My mother was born in 1802. And we ran a mill, and no, but it was just like, you'll write about this someday, which planted this seed that as you go through life and things are hard, you can turn it into art. Bring it really back to our opening recording from, was it Diego? Like take those things and make it art, and my mother planted that for me early.
I read a novel years ago that I quite liked called Someday This Pain Will Be Useful to You.
Yeah, it's a great title.
Yeah.
And it's true, right? But those moments where somebody tells you will be able to make something of that pain. I'll just say a couple other quick ones, which is just Carter and I became writing partners by getting the same internship, and we were working at MTV at the series development department in the mid 1996, mid 90s. This wonderful executive there, this guy named Jeremiah Bosgang, which is an amazing name, who we're still in touch with to this day. He believed in Carter and I. He's like, you guys can do this. You can be a writing team. Here's what you should do. Put together your packet, do this, and I will help it get to an agent, which he did. Got to an agent roundabout, who then became our agent and was our agent all the way through our entire career till now. Currently still our agent, Matt Rice at UTA. And Matt Rice was the first guy that said, How I Met Your Mother, that's the one. Like, we told him the idea. And just those people that like believe in you at the right moment where you need it. And I will say my wife too, and who is a dancer choreographer, like the fact that she speaks a creative language and is talented, and believed that I was talented. And in my 18 years old when I met her, she had no proof that I could that I could really make a career of this, but seemed to have no doubt that I could. And those people that do that for you, it's just such a gift.
Especially because I think show business in particular, like we've talked about this, like neither of us had parents or family in the industry. Like we made the great migration to Los Angeles. Like we really did it in a much more kind of traditional one foot in front of the other way. But it can feel like there's such a velvet rope. Like how do you get behind, like how do you get into that room? How do you do that?
Yeah.
And to have someone who has a career, who is doing it, kind of whisper in your ear, it's really I don't know, it's like a secret incantation or something. Like you feel, I at least felt blessed by Jane and Peter and people who knew what they were talking about, so nice. and who felt like they recognized something in me and said, no, you're one of us. It was, I mean, it feels like it gives you a little golden ticket, right?
It does. And what if Lily had said to Marshall, go work for that place for 5 years. We need the money, versus no, stay the guy I fell in love with and we're going to figure it out. That's a big difference.
That's what a great spouse does is they remind you who you are, because we have amnesia about who we are so often. And they're like they keep the pilot light lit of no, that's not who you are, Well, great question.
Very supportive question. This question in and of itself was proof positive of what you just said about your lovely wife. So thank you, Jornetta.
Welcome back. We are at the third act of our episode, where we like to read some listener mail. If you would like to write us or to record a voice note that might end up at the beginning of the show, or write a letter that will perhaps be at the end of the show, go to howwemadeyourmother.com, or you can even go whimyam.com. Is that right, Alek?
You can.
HWYM. Wait,
MYM, HWMYM, how we made your mother.
Yeah. Think about and go up to contact, and it should be clear from there how to submit to us. And Alek, are you jumping in? What do I see on your face?
In the middle of this episode, I suddenly remembered, yes, the letter I've given you is lovely, but I have a better letter, and I want you to get it right now. So I'm literally emailing you this new letter right now. This is live on air. Here we go. As soon as you get it, Josh, just go ahead with it.
Oh my God. I don't even have it yet. So, oh no, there it is.
I got it. There it is.
Okay. I love the audience can experience our slow internet. Here we go. All right.
Okay. Very exciting.
Should I read this, Alek?
Yeah, why don't you?
Up to you guys.
Right. Okay. So this is hot off the press. This just came in, or you just remembered this one?
I just remembered.
Okay. So this is from Steve Olson, our multiple Emmy-winning set designer, production designer for How I Met Your Mother. We did talk about him a few episodes ago, and we talked about how great he is and that he really knew the bar we wanted to make McLaren's, like, which is McGee's, because he lived right around the corner. I think this letter is going to speak to that. Hot off the presses. So here we go. I'm learning this in real time. Josh, Craig, and Alek, says Steve. Wow. Thanks so much for the shout out on the latest episode of How I Made Your Mother, General Questions podcast. It was really a thrill. My kids got a kick out of it too. They have both watched the entire series multiple times and can name any episode way faster than I can. It has been so wonderful listening and watching your podcast. It takes me back to that amazing time working on How I Met Your Mother. It really was an honor to have had the responsibility to create the visual world for this legendary show. Steve was so good at doing that, by the way.
That's in the letter. Steve added that in the letter.
Yeah, he wrote that. I'm just reading
Steve
it verbatim.
Was just so good.
He's really cocky from all those Emmys. And Craig, you had it. He talks about himself in the third person. And Craig, you had it right. I did live in NYC for quite a while, 13 years to be precise, from my early 20s to my late 30s. And I feel like I lived through so many of the experiences that Ted and Marshall encountered. I related to them so much. I related to Ted because I was a single guy, a designer living in the big city, trying to find my way professionally and romantically, looking for the one. I also related to Marshall because, like Marshall, I am from Minnesota. Wow, I forgot that, Steve. Forgive me. That's not in the letter. And I have always been accused by New Yorkers of being too earnest, too honest, and lacking the native New York snark and sarcasm. How I Met Your Mother meant so much to me. It was the longest show I have worked on by many, many years. And as you guys have reiterated so often, it immediately became a family. Coming to work each day was always a joy, and I always looked forward to seeing the next script or outline and to start working on the next wonderful, bizarre, cool, amazing set. Thank you for those 9 years of creative playground. Thank you for this walk down memory lane. Sincerely, Steve.
Oh,
Steve, we love you.
fantastic.
You could not scare Steve Olson if you tried. We would throw insane stuff at him on a really short clock sometimes. And he would do it and he would create it all. And then it would get torn down on Wednesday night and a whole new thing would come up Thursday morning. I mean, overnight and a Thursday morning. He was just so good. He really deserved those Emmys. And a lesser production designer would have had some sort of a stress-based breakdown based on how much we asked of them. And Steve just was cool as a cucumber.
Well, he also, I think there were Susie Greenberg, Steve Olson, Pam. These were just unflappable people.
Unflappable.
You could not rattle these people.
Yeah.
They were. You want them in a foxhole. You know, they were just
challenge
incredible.
accepted. They were challenge accepted. That's what they were.
But also shout out not just to Steve but to his team. I mean, you'd
Susan Eschelbach,
you'd shoot all day Wednesday late. You'd come in Thursday morning, and the set you shot in was gone. A whole new set was thrown up, and sometimes you'd be leaving, and they'd already be breaking down the set you just shot in like 12 minutes earlier.
You're like, I hope we got that scene because that thing is getting torn the F apart.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Your whole team, Steve, was amazing. All the accolades were well deserved.
And shout out to Steve's kids who loved the show.
Yeah, thanks.
We're happy you're appreciating your dad's work.
I am guilty. Please acquit me. All sins are forgiven in New York City.
How We Made Your Mother is hosted and executive produced by Josh Radnor and Craig Thomas. The show was produced by me, Alek Lev, and our co-producer is Doug Matica. Our audio producer and mixer is Alex Reeves at Point of Blue Studios, and our digital content producer, aka Gen Z Master, is Emily Blumberg. Artwork by John Morrow. Please follow, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts or your podcast player of choice. It really does help the show. Our theme song is NYC by our own Josh Radnor, with additional music by Craig Thomas and Andrew Majewski. Special thanks to Lola Kennedy and Elliot Connors. Visit howwemadeyourmother.com to sign up for our Substack mailing list and for links to our social media. You can also click on the contact page to send us an email or a voice message. Your stories and questions are an important part of the show. Want some merch? Click on the store link or go to howyougetyourmerch.com. Subscribe to Josh Radnor's Museletters on Substack. Order Craig Thomas's debut novel at craigthomaswriter.com/novel. And you could subscribe to my Dead Fathers Society, also on Substack. To learn about how you make a difference, this show's ongoing campaign to raise money for congenital heart disease research, check out the Make a Difference tab at the top of our website. This episode was made possible by the support of Backyard Ventures. People will, in fact, dance.
The real question, it just hit me. Am I in love with you, or just New York City?